She's lived enough. Just let her go. We don't have money for the surgery. My daughter said that while I was in a coma. She signed a do not resuscitate order without shedding a single tear. 3 weeks later, I woke up. I didn't cry. I didn't question. I didn't get angry. I just made one phone call. Within a week, I destroyed everything she thought she would inherit. I'm truly grateful you're here with me. Before we go any further, tell me in the comments, where in the world are you listening from today? I love seeing how far these stories travel and who's sitting on the other side of the screen. And just so you know, this is a fictional story crafted for storytelling, entertainment, and educational reflection. Any resemblance to real names or places is purely coincidental. While dramatized, the message behind it carries meaningful and valuable insight. There's a particular kind of stillness that settles over a house when you finally made it your own again. I'm sitting in my living room in Beaverton, Oregon, looking out at the lavender garden I planted last month. The purple blooms are just beginning to show small and stubborn against the March rain. Lavender doesn't ask for much, just sun patience and soil that won't drown it. I read somewhere that it's meant to bring peace. I'm not sure I believe that yet, but I water it anyway. My name is Dorothy Bennett. I'm 68 years old. I taught third grade for 35 years before I retired, the kind of job where you learn that children will tell you the truth if you're quiet enough to listen. My husband passed 4 years ago a heart attack on a Tuesday morning, quick and without warning. I live alone now, which is different from being lonely, though I'm still learning the difference. 3 months ago, my daughter tried to end my life, twice. The first time, I didn't see it coming. The second time, I was unconscious, so I suppose I didn't see that one either. She signed a piece of paper while I lay in a hospital bed, machines breathing for me, my heart beating, only because someone else had decided it should. A do not resuscitate order. DNR, they call it. I didn't learn about it until 3 weeks later when I woke up, and a nurse with kind eyes and steady hands told me what had almost happened. By then, I understood it wasn't the beginning. It was Plan B, but I'm getting ahead of myself. That's something I used to tell my students: start at the beginning, even if the beginning feels slow. The story makes more sense that way. So let me start where it really began. For years, I'd been sick. Not the kind of sick that takes you quickly, but the kind that lingers, expensive and exhausting. Breast cancer 12 years ago, surgery, radiation, months of feeling like my body belonged to someone else. Then diabetes 5 years after that, the kind that requires insulin and constant vigilance. Then my kidneys started failing slowly, the way everything fails when you're pushing 70. The bills piled up even with insurance. Co-pays, prescriptions, specialist visits, thousands of dollars, then tens of thousands, then more than I wanted to count. My daughter helped pay them. At first, she did it quietly without complaint. I was grateful. I told her so every time. But over the years, something shifted. I could feel it in the way she looked at me, the way she sighed when I called, the way she stopped asking how I felt and started asking how much it cost. I told myself it was stress. She had her own life, her own debts. I didn't want to be a burden. I tried to be less needy, less visible. I stopped calling as often. I apologized for things I couldn't control. I didn't realize I'd become an investment she wanted to cut loose. It was early June, just after 6:30 in the morning, when the truck hit my car on Highway 26. I was driving to the grocery store, the road still quiet, the sky that pale Oregon gray. That means the sun is trying. I remember the light turning green. I remember pressing the gas, my coffee still warm in the cup holder. I remember the sudden wall of blue metal filling my window. The sound that wasn't really a sound, more like the end of sound, and then the spinning, the breaking. The strange silence that comes when the world stops making sense. They told me later that I was awake for about 90 seconds after impact. I don't remember that part. I don't remember the paramedics or the helicopter or my daughter's face when she arrived at the hospital. What I do remember is waking up 3 weeks later and learning that nothing in my life had been an accident. Not the truck, not the DNR, not any of it. Let me tell you about my daughter. Claire Bennett was born when I was 40 years old. People called her a miracle baby, and they weren't wrong. It was a high-risk pregnancy, preeclampsia, bleeding weeks of bed rest. We almost lost her twice before she arrived, once at 22 weeks when the bleeding started, and again at 36 weeks when my blood pressure spiked so high The doctors thought we'd both die. She came out small and furious and alive. Robert cried when he held her. I'd never seen him cry before that. We named her Claire because it means bright clear, and that's what she was to us after so many years of thinking we'd never have children. So yes, we gave her everything. Piano lessons starting at age 5, dance classes, ballet, tap, jazz, a private elementary school with small class sizes and field trips to the coast. I told myself we were giving her opportunities the kind I never had growing up. Robert said I was teaching her to demand things. I said I was teaching her to expect better. We were both right. She was a bright child, genuinely talented. She could play Chopin by the time she was 12. She had friends, the kind of popularity that seemed effortless. But even then I noticed the way she looked at things, the way she'd see another girl's new jacket and come home asking why she didn't have one too. I usually said yes. The first real fight happened when Claire was 16. She wanted to go to Paris for spring break with 3 girls from her private school. It was one of those curated teen tours, museums, cafes, Instagram photos at the Eiffel Tower. The cost was $3,800, not including spending money. Robert said no immediately. We just paid her car insurance and the tuition deposit for her junior year. He sat her down at the kitchen table and explained that we couldn't afford it, not that year. He said it gently, the way he always did, but firmly. Claire cried. Not the kind of crying you do when you're sad. This was different. Louder. She said all her friends were going, that she'd be the only one left out, that we didn't care about her happiness. She said she wished she'd been born into a different family. Robert held his ground. He told her maybe next year, maybe if she got a part-time job and saved up. She slammed her bedroom door so hard a picture frame fell off the hallway wall. That night, after Robert fell asleep, Claire came into the living room. I was grading papers. She sat down next to me, quieter now, and asked if we could talk. She apologized. She said she understood. She said she didn't mean what she'd said about wanting a different family. Then she cried again, softer, this time real. I broke. I took $3,800 out of our savings account the next morning. I told Claire not to tell her father. I said it was between us, that I didn't want him to worry, that he had enough on his mind with work. She hugged me. She promised she'd never ask for anything like that again. She went to Paris that April. She came back with 200 photos and a new Louis Vuitton wallet she said a friend had bought her. Robert never found out, or if he did, he never said anything. But looking back now, I see it clearly. That was the moment. That was when I taught my daughter that rules didn't apply to her as long as I was there to bend them. That was when I showed her that tears and pressure and the right words could get her anything she wanted. By high school, her tastes had gotten expensive. Designer clothes, a car for her 16th birthday, nothing extravagant, but still more than most kids had. College was private, out of state, the kind of school with ivy-covered buildings and tuition that exceeded my annual salary. I taught summer classes for 3 years straight to help cover it. Robert picked up extra shifts at the fire station. We made it work because that's what parents do. Claire graduated with a marketing degree and moved back to Oregon. She got a job at a startup in Portland, making $45,000 a year. Not enough for the life she wanted, but enough to start. Then Robert died. It was a Tuesday morning in mid-June 4 years ago. He'd just turned 66. Massive heart attack. I was 64. Claire was 24. Neither of us knew how to be in the world without him. That's when everything shifted. After Robert passed, my health got worse. The medical bills started piling up faster than I could manage. Claire helped at first without hesitation. But over the months, I felt the resentment building. The way she'd sigh when I called. The way she'd mention her own bills, her own life on hold because of me. Sometimes late at night, I'd wonder, did I love her too much? Did I give her so much that I forgot to teach her how to give back? I don't have an answer. But here's what I didn't know then. 2 years before Robert passed, my husband did something he never told me about. Something quiet and deliberate. It would save my life. $180,000. That's what it cost to keep me alive for the past 10 years. My daughter kept a spreadsheet. Every dollar, every cent. She showed it to me once 2 years ago, her laptop open on my kitchen table. Columns for co-pays, prescriptions, specialist visits. A running total at the bottom that climbed higher every month. She didn't say anything when she showed me. She didn't have to. It started 12 years ago when I was 56 and Claire was 16. Breast cancer. Stage 2 caught early enough to treat, but late enough to terrify us both. Doctor. Marcus Thompson was my oncologist, a steady presence through surgery, radiation, and 6 months of recovery that felt like a year. I survived, but the medical bills kept coming long after the treatment ended. 2 years after that, when I was 58 and Claire had just turned 18, came the diabetes diagnosis, type 2 insulin dependent. Then my kidneys started failing chronic kidney disease stage 3, manageable with medication and careful monitoring, but expensive. Always expensive. Insurance covered some of it, maybe half in a good year. The rest came out of pocket. Co-pays for endocrinologist visits. Insulin that seemed to cost more every time I refilled it. Kidney function tests every 3 months. Medications to slow the damage. Over 10 years, the out-of-pocket costs totaled $180,000. Claire started co-signing the payment plans when she turned 18. It was Robert's idea. He thought it would teach her responsibility, help her understand the real cost of things. She signed her name next to mine on hospital billing forms, pharmacy payment plans, medical credit card applications. At first, she did it without complaint. But over the years, I watched something shift in her. The way she'd hesitate before picking up the pen. The way she'd ask how much it cost before she'd ask how I was feeling. By the time she was 28, Claire had accumulated her own debts. $72,000 in student loans from that private college we'd worked so hard to afford. $38,000 on credit cards, designer clothes, dinners at expensive restaurants, weekend trips with friends who posted everything online. $35,000 remaining on a BMW lease, the kind of car that looked successful but required payments she could barely manage. $145,000. Her debt, plus mine. She worked as a marketing coordinator at a tech startup in Portland. $45,000 a year, which sounds decent until you subtract rent in a trendy neighborhood, the car payment, and the minimum payments on everything else. She was drowning, and I was the anchor pulling her down. 3 months before the accident, she asked me about estate planning. We were sitting in my living room drinking tea the way we used to on Sunday afternoons. Have you thought about what happens to the house, your accounts, when you're gone? I set down my cup. I'm not planning on going anywhere, sweetheart. Her face went cold, just for a second. Then she smiled too bright, too quick, and changed the subject. I told myself I'd imagined it. 1 month before the accident, we had a real fight. She came over to drop off a check for my prescription refill. I thanked her the way I always did, too many times, too apologetic. That's when she snapped. I'm 28 years old, she shouted. I'm supposed to be living my life, not paying for yours. Do you know what it's like watching everyone around me buy houses and go on vacations while I'm stuck paying your medical bills? I told her I was sorry. I told her I never wanted to be a burden. She left without saying goodbye. I should mention this, I only carried basic liability insurance on my car, the kind that covers the other person if you cause an accident, but nothing for yourself. I was trying to save money, trying to be less of a weight. I thought I was being responsible. I didn't know that decision would give my daughter exactly what she needed, a way to make my ending look like an accident and walk away clean. I should have seen it in her eyes that night. Not the eyes of a daughter looking at her mother, the eyes of an accountant, staring at a balance sheet, calculating losses, searching for a way to break even. 3 weeks later, she made a phone call that changed everything. This is what Detective Sarah Reeves showed me 3 weeks after I woke up. Phone records, a TM surveillance footage, a confession. This is what my daughter did while I was still driving to the grocery store every morning completely unaware. I'm telling you what the evidence revealed. 3 weeks before the accident in late May, my daughter went looking. She searched online for someone desperate enough, someone who needed money badly enough to do something terrible. She found Jason Miller, 34 years old, construction worker, $47,000 in medical debt for his daughter's ongoing treatments. His daughter needed surgery. He needed $15,000. My daughter offered it to him. Claire bought a burner phone first, paid cash at a convenience store, the kind of prepaid phone you can't trace back to a name. Then she went to an ATM and withdrew $5,000. The surveillance camera caught her date and time-stamped her face clear in the frame. May 10th, 2:30 in the afternoon. She didn't know about the camera, or maybe she thought no one would ever look. She contacted Jason using the fake name Sarah. She said she had a job for him if he was interested. Cash payment, no questions asked. They arranged to meet in a parking lot off Highway 26, the same highway where 3 weeks later, my car would spin off the road. The detective played me the recording of Jason's confession. His voice was quiet, ashamed. He said a woman approached him in the parking lot. She never gave her real name. She showed him a photograph of me getting into my car. She told him the make and model, my Honda Accord 10 years old silver. She told him my route. She told him I drove to the grocery store every Tuesday morning around 6:30, always taking Highway 26. I need you to cause an accident, she said. That's what Jason told the detective. Make it look natural. She's 68. High chance she won't make it. If she does, she's old enough that people will assume it was just bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time. 5,000 now, 10,000 after it was done. Jason hesitated. He told the detective he knew it was wrong, but his daughter needed surgery within 2 months. He had 47,000 in medical debt already. He looked at the cash in the woman's hand and thought about his daughter. He took the money. My daughter researched how to end my life the way I used to research lesson plans, methodically, carefully. She found someone desperate. She paid cash to avoid a paper trail. She used a fake name. She picked a location where I'd be alone early morning, not many witnesses. She planned it the way I'd taught her to plan everything. Break it into steps, anticipate problems, cover your tracks. By then, I'd become nothing more than a number on a spreadsheet. $180,000 in medical debt versus $800,000 in inheritance. Simple math. Jason took the $5,000. He spent 3 weeks watching my route, learning my schedule, waiting for the right morning. 3 weeks later, I faced a morning I would never forget. I remember the song playing on the radio, Don't Stop Believin' by Journey. I remember humming along to the opening piano notes. I don't remember the impact. They told me I was conscious for about 90 seconds afterward. I don't remember any of them. It was a Tuesday morning in early June, 6:30. I was driving home from the grocery store, a teacher habit I'd kept even after retiring. Go early before the crowds when the aisles are quiet and you can move at your own pace. I had a bag of fresh tomatoes in the passenger seat, a quart of milk in the back, and bread that smelled like it had just been baked. Small things, ordinary things. The kind of morning that feels like it will last forever. Highway 26 westbound near Beaverton. The traffic was light, a few cars ahead, nothing behind. The sky was that pale Oregon gray that means the sun is trying but hasn't made it through. I was thinking about my garden. The roses needed water. I was thinking about grading papers even though I'd been retired for 3 years. Old habits. I was thinking I should call Claire, maybe invite her for dinner that weekend. Maybe we could talk things through. The song played. I hummed along. I didn't see the truck. Jason Miller's blue F-150 ran the red light doing 50 miles an hour and hit my car directly on the driver's side. A T-bone collision, they called it later. The kind where there's no time to brake, no time to swerve, no time to do anything but exist in one moment and then stop existing in the next. My Honda Accord crumpled like paper. The airbags exploded. Glass shattered everywhere. The world spun and then went silent in a way that wasn't peaceful. It was just the absence of sound, the absence of sense. They told me later that I was awake for about 90 seconds after impact, that I said my name when the first paramedic reached me. Dorothy Bennett, I told him, clear and steady. I gave them my address. I told them I was 68 years old. Then I closed my eyes and didn't open them again for 3 weeks. I don't remember saying any of that. I don't remember the paramedics cutting me out of the car or the helicopter ride to Providence St. Vincent Medical Center. I don't remember anything except the song and the pale gray sky and thinking I should call my daughter. They brought me into the emergency room with critical injuries, severe head trauma, 3 broken ribs, internal bleeding in my abdomen. My blood pressure was dropping. I was dying, essentially just taking my time about it. Dr. Marcus Thompson was working in the ER that morning. He saw my name on the chart and stopped. Dorothy Bennett, he said to a nurse. I treated her for breast cancer 12 years ago. She fought so hard, we have to save her. He called for an emergency surgery team. 4 hours to stop the bleeding, stabilize my brain, repair what could be repaired. They worked on me the way you work on someone you believe deserves to live. When it was over, I was moved to the ICU coma, ventilator breathing for me, monitors tracking every struggling beat of my heart. The nurse checked my chart for an emergency contact and found one name, Claire Bennett, daughter. She called the number. Claire answered on the second ring. My daughter arrived at the hospital at 8 o'clock that morning, but she didn't come to my room right away. She went to the billing office first, not the ICU, not my room, billing, doctor. Thompson told me this months later, his voice quiet with the kind of anger that comes from watching someone fail a test you didn't know they were taking. 8 o'clock that morning. The hospital had called Claire at 7:30. Your mother has been in a serious accident. She's in critical condition. You need to come immediately. The woman at the front desk directed her to the ICU on the 3rd floor when she arrived. Claire walked past the ICU entrance down the hall and went straight to the billing office instead. The billing coordinator's name was Janet. She looked up when Claire walked in, probably expecting someone lost or confused. "Can I help you?" "I'm Claire Bennett," my daughter said. "My mother was brought in this morning, Dorothy Bennett. I need to know what this is going to cost." Janet blinked. "Miss Bennett, your mother is in critical condition right now. The doctors are—" "I understand that," Claire interrupted. "But I need to know the numbers. What are we looking at?" Janet pulled up the file on her computer, her fingers moving slowly like she was buying time to figure out if this was really happening. "Your mother had emergency surgery this morning, 4 hours in the OR. The estimated total cost so far is between $180,000 and $240,000. She'll need a second surgery, possibly more, depending on her recovery. Do you know what kind of insurance she has?" "Basic liability only," Claire said. "On her car. The other driver ran the light and then left the scene. Hit and run." Janet's face shifted, sympathy maybe, or recognition of how bad this was about to get. "Uninsured motorist coverage maxes out at $25,000 in Oregon. That means the out-of-pocket cost to the family will be somewhere between $155,000 and $215,000, possibly more." Claire didn't flinch. She asked Janet to email her the breakdown. She asked about payment plans. She asked if the hospital had financial assistance programs for families who couldn't afford care. She did not ask when she could see her mother. Dr. Thompson was standing in the hallway outside the billing office. He'd been on his way to check on another patient when he saw Claire through the glass window sitting at the desk with a calculator open on her phone, not sitting beside her dying mother, not asking if there was anything that could be done, sitting in the billing office doing math. He made a note of it. Not in my medical chart, somewhere else. Somewhere he could remember later if he needed to. Eventually, Claire came to the ICU. She stood beside my bed for maybe 5 minutes. I was unconscious, ventilator breathing for me, machines beeping in rhythm with my struggling heart. She looked at the monitors. She checked her phone. She didn't cry. Dr. Thompson came in while she was there. "Mrs. Bennett," he said, his voice professional and careful. "We need to discuss your mother's treatment plan going forward. There are some decisions that will need to be made in the next 48 hours. "What are her chances?" Claire asked. "It's too early to say for certain. The next few days are critical. But your mother is a fighter. I treated her for cancer 12 years ago and she—" "What are the odds she survives?" Claire asked again, cutting him off. "Not what are the odds she recovers. Not what can we do to help her. What are the odds she survives?" Dr. Thompson told me later, months after I woke up, that this was the moment he knew. My daughter wasn't asking about hope. She was calculating odds, survival versus cost, life versus debt. I was lying in that hospital bed, unconscious machines, breathing for me, and my daughter stood in the hallway doing the math, and decided that my life wasn't worth the cost. Plan A didn't work fast enough. For 48 hours, my daughter watched, waited, and hoped I would pass away on my own. The first day and night after the accident, Tuesday into Wednesday, I was stable but still in a coma. My vital signs were being monitored closely, heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen levels. The machines tracked every struggling beat, every shallow breath the ventilator took for me. I was alive barely, and that was the problem. Claire came to visit on Wednesday afternoon. She found Dr. Thompson in the hallway outside my room and asked him a question most families don't ask. Has there been any change? Could she still, pass away? Dr. Thompson looked at her carefully. Your mother is stable right now. We're monitoring her closely and we'll know more over the next few days. But she could still pass, right? I mean, it's not impossible. He told me later that this was when he first felt the discomfort settle in his chest, the wrongness of it. Most families ask if their loved one will recover, he said to me months later. They don't ask when they'll pass away. Linda Russell, the head nurse on the ICU floor, was standing nearby. She heard the conversation. She went back to the nurse's station and made a note in a file that wasn't my medical chart. Daughter asking unusual questions. Seems to be waiting for a negative outcome rather than hoping for recovery. By Thursday morning, day 2, my vitals had actually improved. The brain swelling was going down. My blood pressure had stabilized. The doctors started talking cautiously about the possibility that I might survive after all. Dr. Thompson found Claire in the waiting room that morning with what he thought was good news. Mrs. Bennett, your mother's numbers improved significantly overnight. Her brain swelling is decreasing. This is a very positive sign. Claire's face fell, just for a second. Then she rearranged it into something that might have looked like relief if you weren't paying close attention. Dr. Thompson was paying close attention. At 2 o'clock Thursday afternoon, exactly 46 hours after my accident, Claire sat alone in the ICU waiting room. I imagine her there now doing the math one more time. $155,000 to $215,000 if I survived. $0 if I didn't. Simple arithmetic. At 3:15, she found Dr. Thompson again. Linda Russell was at the nurse's station nearby, close enough to hear. I need to make a decision, Claire said. Her voice was steady, calm. My mother wouldn't want to live like this, hooked up to machines. I want to sign a do not resuscitate order. Dr. Thompson stared at her. Miss Bennett, your mother is actually showing signs of improvement. Her vitals are... We can't afford another surgery, Claire interrupted. Or months of recovery, or whatever comes next. She's 68 years old. She's lived a full life. If something happens, I want you to let her go, peacefully. Your mother fought cancer 12 years ago, Dr. Thompson said quietly. She's a fighter. She's also tired, Claire said, and I'm her daughter. I know what she'd want. She signed the form at 3:15 that afternoon, exactly 48 hours after the truck hit my car on Highway 26. Linda Russell documented everything the time the conversation, the fact that Claire's hand didn't shake when she signed her name. No tears, no hesitation. Dr. Thompson stood there holding the DNR form with my daughter's signature on it. He'd been a doctor for 26 years. He'd seen families make impossible decisions in impossible situations. He knew grief looked different for everyone. But this didn't look like grief. This looked like relief. He went back to his office and did something that probably broke a dozen hospital protocols. He pulled up my file and started looking for something he hoped was there. One more thing that might stop what he suspected was about to happen. I have a filing cabinet at home. In the bottom drawer, there's a folder labeled Medical. Inside that folder is a single form I filled out 3 years ago and then forgot about. That form saved my life. Thursday afternoon, 3:45, Dr. Thompson went to Linda Russell with an idea that was part hunch, part hope. Check her employee record, he said. Dorothy volunteered here during her cancer recovery 12 years ago. See if there's a healthcare proxy on file anywhere. Linda went to the records department. She searched through old volunteer files until she found mine, Dorothy Bennett. And there, clipped to the inside cover, was a photocopy of a document I'd filled out 3 years earlier when the hospital updated its volunteer paperwork. Healthcare proxy Evelyn Porter, designated authority to make medical decisions in the event of incapacity. Filed 3 years ago, still valid. Linda brought the file to Dr. Thompson. He looked at the name, the date, the notary's stamp at the bottom. Call her, he said, right now. At 4:30 that afternoon, Linda called the number listed on the form. Evelyn Porter, 67 years old, retired librarian, my best friend for 43 years. She lived 35 minutes away in a quiet neighborhood where she'd raised 3 children and buried a husband and learned to be alone without being lonely. She answered on the 3rd ring. Ms. Porter. This is Linda Russell calling from Providence St. Vincent Medical Center. I'm calling about Dorothy Bennett. Evelyn's voice went sharp with fear. What happened? Is Dorothy okay? There was a car accident Tuesday morning. She's in the ICU. She's in a coma and her condition is critical but stable. Her daughter signed a do not resuscitate order this afternoon. There was a long silence. Then Evelyn's voice came back low and furious. Claire signed, "What? A DNR about 45 minutes ago. I'm her healthcare proxy," Evelyn said. "That girl has no legal authority. I'm coming right now." She hung up. Linda heard the click and imagined Evelyn already moving, already grabbing her keys, already halfway out the door. It should have taken 35 minutes, but it was 4:30 on a Thursday rush hour traffic on Highway 26, and Evelyn had to stop at home first to find her copy of the proxy paperwork, the official notarized document that proved she had legal authority. She told me later what that drive was like. Every red light felt like a betrayal. Every car in front of her felt like a conspiracy. She gripped the steering wheel and talked to me the whole way, even though I couldn't hear her. "Hold on, Dorothy, just hold on, I'm coming." She arrived at 6:15, an hour and 45 minutes from the phone call. She walked straight to the nurse's station with the proxy document in her hand, and her voice steady with the kind of authority that comes from loving someone for 43 years. "I'm Evelyn Porter. I'm Dorothy Bennett's healthcare proxy. Where is the DNR that was signed this afternoon?" Linda brought it to her, Claire's signature neat and unhesitant at the bottom. Evelyn looked at it for exactly 3 seconds. Then she looked at Dr. Thompson. "I revoke this order, completely. Do whatever surgery my friend needs. Save her life." At 8 o'clock that evening, I was taken back into the operating room. 4 more hours. The surgical team worked through the night to finish what they'd started 2 days earlier, to repair what could be repaired and stabilize what couldn't. At midnight, I was wheeled back to the ICU, still in a coma, still on a ventilator, but alive, stable, with a chance. Claire was at home sleeping. She didn't know the DNR had been revoked. She didn't know about Evelyn or the proxy or the second surgery. My daughter went to sleep that night believing the machines would stop in the morning. She slept well. And the next day, she made her next mistake. While I was unconscious, recovering from a surgery, I didn't know my daughter was stealing my house. This is what the county records show. This is what the police reconstructed later, days 3 and 4. Friday into Saturday, Claire stayed in her apartment waiting for the hospital to call. She was waiting for them to tell her I had passed away during the night, that the machines had been turned off, that it was over. The call never came. Claire assumed the hospital was just slow with the paperwork. She'd signed the DNR. She'd done her part. Now she was waiting for me to do mine. On Saturday afternoon, she drove to my house in Beaverton. She had a key. I'd given it to her years ago for emergencies. She let herself in. The house was quiet the way houses get when no one's been home for days. Mail piling up, plants needing water, the kind of silence that feels like waiting. Claire didn't water the plants. She went straight to my filing cabinet. She found what she was looking for in the bottom drawer, the house deed. The Beaverton house Robert and I had bought 32 years ago when Claire was still a toddler. The house we'd made mortgage payments on for 23 years before finally paying it off. The house that was worth, according to the latest county assessment, $520,000. Claire stood in my living room holding that deed and thinking one thought: this should have been mine 4 years ago. When Robert died, she'd expected to inherit. She'd expected the house, the accounts, everything, but the will left it all to me. "Your mother needs security," Robert had written. Claire read that as your mother is more important than you are. She'd been angry about it for 4 years. Now she was going to fix it. Over the next week, while I lay in the ICU, fighting to breathe without a machine fighting to wake up, fighting to survive, Claire was practicing my signature. She pulled out old birthday cards, old checks, old letters I'd written her over the years. She studied the way I formed my D, the loop of my B, the way my name slanted slightly to the right. She practiced 50 times, maybe more, until her hand could forge my signature without thinking. Then she created a document, a power of attorney form, dated 4 months earlier, supposedly signed by me, granting Claire full legal authority over my finances and property, a complete fiction. But it looked real. She needed it notarized. That was the tricky part. She took it to Brian Wade, 38 years old notary public, the kind of man who operated in the gray spaces where the law got fuzzy. He'd been suspended once before for notarizing documents without proper verification. Claire knew this because she'd helped him navigate a tax audit 2 years earlier. He owed her. She walked into his office with the forged POA and a reminder. "Remember when I helped you with that audit?" she said. Brian looked at the document, looked at her, didn't ask to see me, didn't ask for identification, didn't verify anything, just stamped it with his notary seal and signed his name. Completely illegal. He knew it. She knew it. Neither of them cared. The next day, Claire filed the paperwork at the Multnomah County Records Office. A deed transfer. Dorothy Bennett to Claire Bennett. Mother to daughter. A gift, the paperwork claimed. Voluntary transfer of property. By the end of that first week, the house was in Claire's name. Fraudulently. Illegally. But officially. While I was fighting to breathe, to heal, to wake up, my daughter was dismantling everything Robert and I had built for 40 years. $395,000. That's how much my daughter borrowed against my house while I was in a coma. The bank approved it in 4 days. Week 2. With the house fraudulently transferred into her name, Claire applied for a mortgage at Columbia Bank. She filled out the application as the legal owner of a $520,000 property in Beaverton. Paid off, no liens, clean title. The bank had no reason to suspect fraud. The county records showed Claire Bennett as the owner. The notarized power of attorney looked legitimate. The signature, my forged signature, matched the one on file. Everything appeared legal. 4 days later, the loan was approved. $395,000 transferred into Claire's checking account. She paid off her credit cards first, $38,000, gone in a single transaction. Years of designer clothes and expensive dinners and weekend trips finally cleared. Then the BMW lease. $35,000 to buy out the car she could never really afford. Now it was hers, fully paid. Student loans next, $72,000. The debt from that private college, the one Robert and I had worked summer jobs and extra shifts to help pay for, cleared in one click. Then she went shopping. $5,000 in a weekend, new wardrobe, new laptop, new everything. The kind of spending spree you go on when you suddenly have money and no guilt about where it came from. When she was done, she had $245,000 left. She moved it into a savings account and stared at the balance on her phone. $145,000 in debt. Now zero, plus $250,000 in the bank. Claire told herself she deserved this. After 10 years of paying my medical bills after sacrificing her 20s to take care of a mother who just wouldn't stop being sick, after watching everyone around her move forward while she stayed stuck, she'd earned it. She took a photo of herself in one of her new outfits at an expensive cafe in downtown Portland. Latte in hand, smile bright. She posted it online with a caption about new chapters and fresh starts and being blessed. Grateful emojis, sparkle emojis, the whole performance. The comments rolled in within minutes. Friends congratulating her. You deserve it, so happy for you. New beginnings. None of them knew I was in a coma. None of them knew where the money came from. They just saw a young woman finally getting her life together, finally free of whatever had been holding her back. For 2 weeks, 2 into week 3, Claire didn't visit the hospital once. She didn't call to check on me. She didn't ask about my condition. She assumed I was either already gone or would be soon. Either way, she'd moved on. The nurses noticed. Linda Russell made a note in a file that wasn't my medical chart. Patient's daughter has not visited or called since admission 3 weeks ago. Emergency contact unresponsive. But I wasn't gone. Week 3. My condition started improving. Slowly. The doctors were cautiously amazed. My brain function was returning. The swelling had gone down. My lungs were starting to work without the ventilator. I was healing. While I was fighting for every breath, while my brain was slowly climbing back toward consciousness, while my body was doing the impossible work of recovering from injuries that should have ended me, my daughter was shopping. She bought a cashmere sweater. $300. Soft gray expensive, the kind of thing she used to walk past in stores and dream about owning. She posted a photo of it online. Treating myself, the caption said. More heart emojis. She was treating herself with my house. Tuesday morning, week 3. 21 days after the truck hit my car on Highway 26. 21 days after my daughter signed a DNR and waited for me to die. I opened my eyes. The first face I saw when I opened my eyes wasn't my daughter's. It was Dr. Thompson's. That should have told me everything. 9:30 on a Tuesday morning. Week 3. My eyes opened slowly like they'd forgotten how. The ceiling was white and too bright. Everything was blurry. My throat burned. There were tubes, machines beeping, a hand on my wrist taking my pulse. Dr. Thompson leaned into my line of vision. "Dorothy, can you hear me?" I tried to speak. Nothing came out but a whisper. You're at Providence St. Vincent Medical Center. You were in a car accident. You've been in a coma for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. The words didn't make sense. I'd been driving to the grocery store. Journey was on the radio. It had been morning, now it was still morning. 3 weeks later. "Claire," I whispered. "Where's Claire?" Dr. Thompson and Linda Russell exchanged a look. The kind of look that means bad news is coming and they're deciding who has to say it. "There's something you need to know," Dr. Thompson said quietly. By afternoon, I was stronger. Strong enough to sit up with pillows behind my back. Strong enough to understand what they were telling me, even though I didn't want to believe it. 2 days after your accident, Dr. Thompson said, "Your daughter signed a do not resuscitate order." I stared at him. The words felt foreign. A DNR. It means that if your heart stopped or you stopped breathing, we wouldn't be allowed to try to save you. We'd have to let you go. Linda brought me a copy of the incident report. There was Claire's signature at the bottom. Neat, steady, no hesitation. And above it, documented in Linda's handwriting, were the words my daughter had said. "Let her go. We won't pay for another surgery. She's lived a full life." My hand shook as I held the paper. I read it 3 times. 4. I kept staring at Claire's signature like if I looked long enough it would turn into someone else's name. It didn't. "Why am I still alive?" I asked. My voice was barely there. "We found your healthcare proxy on file," Dr. Thompson said. "Evelyn Porter. She came to the hospital and revoked the DNR. She authorized the second surgery that saved your life." I closed my eyes. Tears leaked out the sides. Evelyn had saved me. My best friend of 43 years had driven through rush hour traffic and revoked an order that would have let me die. And my daughter, my only child, the girl I'd raised and loved and sacrificed everything for, had signed that order in the first place. At 6 o'clock that evening, the door to my room opened. Claire walked in. It was the first time she'd visited in 21 days. She started crying the second she saw me, big theatrical sobs. "Mom, oh my God, I can't believe you're awake. I've been so worried." I watched her face, studied it the way you study something you're trying to understand. I was looking for sincerity, for real emotion, for my daughter. All I saw was a performance. "I've been here every single day," she said, reaching for my hand, "sitting with you, talking to you, praying you'd wake up. The nurses told me you haven't been here since the Thursday after my accident," I said. My voice was quiet, calm. 3 weeks ago. Her hand froze halfway to mine. "I couldn't stand seeing you like that," she tried. "It was too hard. You signed a DNR." Silence. She looked at me. I looked back. For just a second, I saw something real cross her face. Not guilt, not shame, calculation. She was trying to figure out how much I knew. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She glanced at it. Relief. "I should let you rest," she said already, backing toward the door. "I'll come back tomorrow. We can talk then." She never came back. That night, Evelyn arrived. She sat beside my bed and took my hand in both of hers. Her eyes were sad and determined at the same time. "There's more, Dorothy," she said quietly. "There's more you need to know." Evelyn brought 3 things: tissues, chamomile tea in a thermos, and the truth about my husband's will. I cried over all 3. Wednesday evening, week 3. Evelyn sat beside my hospital bed and took my hand. I'd asked her the question that had been burning in my mind since I woke up. Why would Claire do this? Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that changed everything again. Dorothy, there's something Robert did before he died. Something he made me promise not to tell you unless Claire ever tried to harm you. I stared at her. What do you mean? 6 years ago. Evelyn said slowly, Robert went to see a lawyer, alone. His name is Martin Prescott. Robert created a new will, a secret one. He didn't tell you because he didn't want to hurt you, but he made me the executor, and he made me promise that if Claire ever did anything to put your life in danger, I would tell you everything. My throat tightened. What did he do? He left the house to you. Only you, not Claire. And his life insurance, he split it 50-50 between you and a cancer research charity. Claire gets nothing. He disinherited her completely. I felt like I'd been hit. He cut her out. Why? Evelyn's eyes were sad. Because he saw who she was, Dorothy, and you wouldn't. Do you remember the arguments? I did. God help me, I did. Years of them. Robert trying to tell me something I refused to hear. She only calls when she needs money. Robert had said once, maybe 5 years ago. She's young, I'd defended. She's still learning how to manage on her own. She's 23 years old and she expects us to pay for everything. That's not learning, that's entitlement. I told him he was being too hard on her, that she'd grow out of it. The last big argument was 8 years ago. Claire was 20. She'd asked us to co-sign a loan for a car she couldn't afford. Robert had refused. Claire had hung up on him and didn't speak to us for 3 months. That night, Robert sat at our kitchen table and said the words I'd pushed out of my memory until now. Our daughter doesn't see you as a person, Dorothy. She sees you as a bank account. And one day, when she decides the account isn't worth the maintenance cost, she's going to hurt you. I'd been so angry at him. You're paranoid, you're cruel, she's our daughter. I hope I'm wrong, he'd said quietly. I really do. Evelyn handed me a business card. Martin Prescott, attorney at law. I called him after I revoked the DNR, Evelyn said. I told him what Claire had done. He's coming tomorrow morning. He has Robert's will. And Dorothy... She paused. Robert left you a letter. Sealed. It was supposed to be opened only if Claire ever tried to harm you. I couldn't breathe. He knew. Even then, 6 years ago, he knew this would happen. He hoped it wouldn't, Evelyn said gently. But yes, he knew it was possible. That night after Evelyn left, I lay in that hospital bed alone and cried for my husband. The man who'd tried to protect me even after death. The man whose warnings I'd ignored because I loved my daughter too much to see what she was becoming. I had chosen Claire over Robert. I had believed love could change her. I had been wrong about everything. The next morning, Martin Prescott walked into my hospital room carrying a leather briefcase. Inside that briefcase was my husband's voice from beyond the grave, and evidence that the DNR wasn't the worst thing my daughter had done. It wasn't even close. Martin Prescott brought 3 things to my hospital room: a will, a sealed letter, and a detective. I wasn't sure which truth would hurt the most. Thursday morning, 10 o'clock, week 3. Martin walked in carrying a leather briefcase. His gray suit perfectly pressed his expression careful and kind. He was 61 years old and had practiced estate law for 30 years. He'd seen families destroyed by money and secrets. He knew what he was about to do to mine. He opened the briefcase and removed a document. "This is your husband's will," he said. "The real one, filed 6 years ago." I took it with shaking hands and read. The house, $520,000 left solely to me. The life insurance split 50-50 between me and the American Cancer Society. Robert's firefighter pension survivor benefits to me. Everything to me. Claire's name appeared nowhere. "Your husband wanted to protect you," Martin said quietly, "and he left you something else." He handed me a cream-colored envelope, my name in Robert's handwriting, sealed with red wax. I opened it carefully like it might shatter. Inside was a single page, Robert's voice from 4 years in the grave. "Dorothy, if you're reading this, it means our daughter tried to harm you. I'm so sorry I couldn't stop it. I watched her change over the years. She stopped seeing you as a mother and started seeing you as an obstacle. I tried to warn you. You wouldn't listen because you loved her too much to see what she was becoming. I couldn't protect you while I was alive, so I'm doing it now. The house is yours. Everything is yours. Don't let her take it. Don't let her make you feel guilty. You loved her perfectly, Dorothy. Some people are born knowing how to be grateful. Others are born entitled, always wanting more, never satisfied. We didn't make her that way. We can't change her. We can only protect ourselves from her. I love you. I've always loved you. Fight back. Robert, I couldn't breathe. Couldn't see through the tears. He knew, I whispered. He knew all along. And I didn't listen. Martin gave me a moment, then he said, Mrs. Bennett, there's more. Your daughter has already taken the house. County records show the deed was transferred to her name 2 weeks ago. She used a forged power of attorney. She took out a mortgage for $395,000. The words didn't make sense at first. Then they did. She stole my house while I was in a coma. Yes, but we can prove it's fraud. The signatures don't match. The notary, a man named Brian Wade, has already admitted he didn't verify your identity. Martin walked to the door and opened it. A woman in a dark jacket stepped inside, detective badge on her belt. Mrs. Bennett, she said. My name is Detective Sarah Reeves. I need to tell you something about your accident. I looked at her, waited. It wasn't an accident. Your daughter paid a man named Jason Miller $15,000 to cause the crash that nearly ended your life. The room tilted. I gripped the bed rail. Detective Reeves showed me the evidence. A TM surveillance footage of Claire withdrawing $5,000 in cash. Phone records from a burner phone. Jason Miller's signed confession describing my car, my route, my morning grocery store habit. That was Plan A, I heard myself say. My voice sounded far away. When I didn't die fast enough, she signed the DNR. That was Plan B. Martin and the detective exchanged looks. I looked at Martin. I want to confront her, publicly. I want witnesses. What do you need? Grace Fellowship Church, Sunday service. It's the 4-year anniversary of Robert's passing. The church always holds a memorial. My daughter never misses it. 5 days. I had 5 days to prepare. 5 days to decide exactly what I would say to the daughter who tried to end my life twice and steal everything I had left. 5 days to plan justice. If you're still here, comment, I'm still here. I need to know you're standing with me. And tell me if you discovered your own child had planned your death. Would you expose them publicly or handle it in silence? Before we continue, please note that the next part includes dramatized fictional elements created for storytelling and reflection. Some details may not reflect real events. If you prefer not to continue, you're free to stop here. I walked into Grace Fellowship Church that Sunday morning for the first time in 4 years. I wasn't sure I still believed in God, but I believed in justice. And I believed Robert was watching. Week 5, 2 weeks after waking, Martin Prescott came with me and Evelyn carrying his briefcase. 11 o'clock service. About 85 people in the pews, people who'd known us for over 30 years. Claire was already there, front pew, black dress, playing the devoted daughter. I entered from the back, heads turned, whispers spread. Claire saw me. Her face went white. Pastor Daniel Matthews finished his sermon about bearing burdens. At 11:45, he invited everyone to Fellowship Hall. Does anyone want to share memories of Robert? Claire stood. I'd like to honor my father. He taught me. I stood up. The room went silent. May I say a few words, Pastor? He nodded, surprised. I walked to the front, still weak, using a cane. The bruises on my face hadn't faded. Every step hurt. Everyone could see it. Claire sat down, trapped. My name is Dorothy Bennett, I said. 6 weeks ago, I was in a car accident on Highway 26. I was in a coma for 3 weeks. When my daughter arrived at the hospital, she didn't go to my room. She went to the billing office. She asked how much the surgeries would cost. She asked about payment plans. People shifted. 48 hours later, while I was unconscious and showing signs of improvement, my daughter signed a do not resuscitate order. She told Dr. Marcus Thompson, "We can't afford another surgery. Let her go. She's lived a full life." A woman in the third row gasped. Claire stood. Mom, you don't understand. I was scared the bills were not your responsibility, I said calmly. I had a healthcare proxy, Evelyn Porter. I gestured to Evelyn. But you didn't check. You assumed you were in charge because you wanted to be. Claire's voice rose. I was trying to protect you. The doctors said you might not wake up and you couldn't afford it, I finished. Because you owed $72,000 in student loans, $38,000 in credit cards, $35,000 on a BMW lease. Her mouth opened, nothing came out. My husband knew, I continued. 6 years ago, Robert Bennett went to see Martin Prescott. Martin stood holding documents. He made a new will. He left the house, our house in Beaverton, worth $520,000 to me, not to Claire. The life insurance went to me and the American Cancer Society. 50-50. An older man in the back, Tom Reeves. Robert's friend from the fire station spoke up. Robert told me 2 years before he died that he was worried about Claire. He said he loved her, but didn't trust her judgment anymore. Claire spun toward him. That's not true. It is, Tom said quietly. He saw something coming. I waited, then I said the rest. While I was unconscious, my daughter forged my signature. She created a fake power of attorney. She transferred my house into her name. Then she took out a $395,000 mortgage against it. Martin held up the documents. She paid off her debts. She went shopping. She posted photos online of her new clothes while I was on a ventilator fighting for my life. The room was frozen, but it didn't start there. My voice wavered but held. 3 weeks before the accident, my daughter made a phone call from a burner phone she bought with cash. She contacted a man named Jason Miller. She paid him $15,000. She gave him my car description, my license plate, my route. Tuesday morning, 6:30, Highway 26. A woman started crying. She told him to make it look like an accident. She told him I probably wouldn't survive because I was 68 years old. Claire screamed, "That's a lie! The police have phone records," I said. "A TM surveillance video of you withdrawing $5,000 in cash. The burner phone traced to your apartment. Jason Miller's signed confession identifying you." Martin held up another document. Detective Sarah Reeves is prepared to testify. I looked at Claire. Plan A didn't work. The truck didn't end me fast enough, so you signed the DNR, Plan B. And when I still didn't die, you forged my signature and stole my house. Plan C. Claire moved toward the aisle. The congregation stood not blocking her, but bearing witness. She stopped. "I loved you with everything I had," I said quietly. Tears fell. "I gave you piano lessons in Paris and a college education. I chose you over your father's warnings." My voice broke. "I'm sorry that wasn't enough to make you love me back." No one moved. Then an elderly neighbor put her arms around me. Others followed. Claire stood alone. Pastor Matthews said softly, "I think we need to pray." The congregation bowed their heads. Claire walked out. The door closed. I stayed in that circle and cried. 3 days later, Detective Reeves called. They were arresting Claire. They asked if I wanted to be present. I said no. I'd already said everything I needed to say. They sentenced my daughter to 18 years. She'll be 46 when she's eligible for parole. I'll be 86 if I'm still here. The trial lasted 6 months, June through December. Charges of conspiracy, solicitation, forgery, fraud. The prosecution showed the ATM footage, the phone records, Jason Miller's confession. Jason got 8 years after taking a plea deal. He testified against Claire, identified her in court, described the transaction. His daughter needed surgery. The irony was almost too much to bear. The defense argued that Claire was young, only 28, made mistakes under financial pressure. I testified calmly. I loved my daughter. She tried to end my life. Twice. That's the truth. On cross-examination, the defense attorney asked, "Didn't you spoil her?" "I loved my child," I said. "That's not a crime. Attempted harm is." The verdict came in December. Guilty on all counts. 18 years at Oregon State Prison. When they let her out, Claire looked at me one last time. I looked back. A single tear ran down my face. Not triumph, just grief. The house deed was returned to me. The fraudulent mortgage was voided. I moved back into the Beaverton house in January. It's March now, 9 months since the accident. I planted a lavender garden in the front yard. Robert's favorite. The purple blooms are just starting to show. I volunteer at the library twice a week with Evelyn. We teach adult literacy classes. Last Tuesday, a student named Maria asked me, "How are you always so positive?" "I'm not positive," I told her. "I'm grateful. Positive means pretending nothing happened. Grateful means acknowledging it happened and knowing you survived." I go to Grace Fellowship every Sunday. I sit in the front pew now. Robert's pew, mine. Last week, a young mother named Amanda asked me for advice. Her own mother was demanding controlling made her feel guilty for setting boundaries. Boundaries aren't cruelty, I told her. They're survival. You don't owe anyone your life, not even family. She thanked me with tears in her eyes. One evening last month, a letter arrived. Oregon State Prison return address, Claire's handwriting. I held the envelope for a long time. Evelyn was with me. "Will you read it?" she asked. "Not now," I said. "Maybe someday. I need to see if I'm strong enough and if she's really changed." I put the letter in Robert's desk drawer, unopened. I don't know if I'll ever open it, but that's okay. It's my choice now. This evening, I'm sitting on the porch swing. The lavender is blooming. Robert's photo is on the small table beside me, the one from our 30th anniversary, both of us laughing at something I can't remember anymore. "You saved me, Robert," I say to the photo, "even after you were gone. I hope wherever you are, you know that." I stand up. Water the lavender. Look at the house that's mine again. Look at the purple blooms and the sunset turning the sky pink. I'm 68 years old. I have the house my husband left me. I have Evelyn. I have a church community that believes me. I have students who look at me like I have something worth learning. I have this garden. And I have time. Claire tried to take my life because she couldn't wait for me to pass away naturally. I choose to keep living, not to prove anything to her, but for myself. Every morning I wake up as a choice she tried to steal. The door to my daughter isn't locked, but it's closed. She has to knock. She has to prove she's changed, and I'll have to decide if I'm ready. Maybe someday. But today I'm 68. I'm alive. I'm free. And that's enough. If you've listened to my story this far, thank you. I know family drama stories like mine aren't easy to hear, but I'm sharing it because I need you to understand something I learned too late. I love my daughter with everything I had. I gave her everything I could, and I ignored every warning sign because I believed love could change her. I was wrong. Don't be like me. Don't ignore the red flags. Don't choose blind love over your own safety. When someone shows you who they are, when they only call for money, when they see you as an obligation instead of a person, when they calculate the cost of keeping you alive, believe them. The first time, Robert tried to tell me. For years he tried. I called him paranoid. I called him cruel. I defended Claire when he said she was changing into someone dangerous. I chose her over his warnings, and she tried to end my life twice. Grandma stories aren't supposed to be like this. We're supposed to talk about baking cookies and reading bedtime stories and spoiling grandchildren. But my story is what it is. And maybe that's why it matters. Here's what I learned. Boundaries aren't cruelty. They're survival. You don't owe anyone your life, not your children, not your parents, not anyone. Love shouldn't cost you everything. And if it does, that's not love. That's something else. I also learned that some people can't be changed by love. Some people are wired differently. You can give them everything and it will never be enough. That's not your failure. That's theirs. God gave us the wisdom to recognize danger. He gave us the instinct to protect ourselves. Ignoring those gifts because we think love should conquer all isn't faith. It's foolishness. If you're in a situation where someone is draining you financially, emotionally, physically, listen to that voice inside you that says this isn't right. That voice is trying to save you. If you're reading this and thinking about your own family drama stories about relationships that feel like they're slowly taking your life away, please hear me. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to protect yourself. And if you're a grandmother reading grandma stories looking for something lighter than mine, I understand. My story is heavy, but it's real. And sometimes the heaviest stories carry the most important lessons. I'm 68 years old. I survived because people around me refused to let me die Evelyn, Dr. Thompson, Linda, even Robert from beyond the grave. I survived because I finally learned to fight back. Don't wait as long as I did. Set your boundaries now. Protect yourself now. Choose people who choose you back. That's the lesson. That's what I hope you take from these family drama stories, from these grandma stories that don't have easy endings. I'm still here. I'm still learning. And every morning I wake up is a gift. Use yours wisely. Final note. This content contains dramatized storytelling elements for educational purposes. Some details are fictionalized, but the lessons and messages are entirely valuable. If this style doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. Please seek content that better suits your needs.